Maybe not. No, I think that's okay. No, this year. Good fellow. He was me.
Texted my contact locally to see if she can reach out to her. She's gonna
Okay. So we've got 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, waiting for number 7. Stuff happens.
All right, if I hear something.
Okay.
Yeah, out on 295, 2005, 295. Yeah. We're talking about that old place out of town, hotel that we were at way back there. Did you ever go out there? Way back. Kevin's joy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, for years, we had it down there. I understand. I couldn't get the doors going. We had to shut down. Maybe I. They get you the vaccine inside, they get it in the neighborhood. CIA gets to provide roads to get eyes inside. I'm a minority. We didn't like that. It became
Okay, Randy came in, but this one came in right before him and I don't recognize that. I'm waiting for a picture to come up.
That's the message of making the announcement. Rally's dad was transferred from the hospital into Brooks Rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Dang. Dang.
All right, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Welcome to the July 26th meeting of the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville. Zoom attendees, please mute yourself and submit any questions or comments via the chat function on Zoom, or unmute yourself and let us hear from you. Our invocation today will be given by Dan Dodd, and then Ed Lombard will lead us in the pledge.
Please bow your head with me. Bless us, O Lord, these thy gifts. Grant that we may become true Rotarians, being in service to our community. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. May we be challenged to give our best always. Bless this food to our body's nourishment and to us in your service. Amen.
Please join me in facing the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Please be seated. I'd like to thank our greeter today, past District Governor Tim Baker. And before we get too far into the presentation and program today, I'd like to call up past District Governor Jeffrey Michaelman to make a special presentation.
Oh, God,
Perfect timing.
I always have that turned off on my clock. Thanks, President Dane. It is wonderful to be here as past district governor. Ken Baker and I were talking about the best job in Rotary, and I talked to a number of you today, is being past president of your club. If you can imagine what it's like to be past district governor, it's even better. So some of you might think about that. I'm looking at Ike. Applying for that job, because then you get to be past district governor, right, Tom? All right. Three things I want to talk about real quickly. I promised Dane I would be quick. The first one, some of you may have noticed I got this pin on. It's a corkscrew. It's the Rotary Wine Appreciation Fellowship. It's one of the things that's really great about Rotary. I got myself elected to the board of that fellowship because I'm really pretty committed to wine. Carter and I were talking about, I've done a little wine drinking recently. So if you're interested in doing it, you get a pin like this. It's $100 lifetime membership. And then we are going to be starting to have wine events in the district. So just let me know. I have some pins with me today. I don't have to get the $100 today because I trust you, you're Rotarians. But let me know. The other thing I want to let you know, we are gearing up for the Jaguars program. The program is going to be a little bit different this year. We got 4 games. More of the tickets, as you might imagine, are going to be in the upper deck. It's going to be a way for us to raise money for polio. The exciting thing you're going to see in District Governor John Tabor's Minitarian this week, those of you who get it, is the Jags have given us a cabana, a spa cabana for the Miami Dolphins game on the 26th. It's going to be hot. It's a 7 o'clock in the evening game, but you get access to the pool. So if you're interested in that, Dane's going to be hearing about it. We'll communicate with you. The final thing that I want to do, Patty, could you please come in? So Ed and Ken and some others that were at the district conference know that Patty had some personal issues and she was unable to attend the district conference. Rotary in this district only runs because of Patty. And you know that. So Patty thinks that I'm here today because I wanted to do something with Dane. Well, you have to lie to Patty. That's the only way. In any event, on behalf of the district, Patty, I want to present you with a Paul Harris level 3. Couldn't recognize Patty without giving her some flowers. So thank her for everything. Thanks, President Dane. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Appreciate it. Trying to get Patty up for a speech right there. It got declined. Thank you, Patty. Love you so much. All right, so moving along with the program, Mike O'Brien has a pop-up regarding next week's blood drive.
Thank you, President Dane, and good afternoon, Rotarian. So the flyers I put on your desk, table, ignore that date. Chris, thank you for catching it. That was the original date on the 9th, but the sign-up sheet is next Wednesday, the 2nd. So, but the nice little pretty flyer goes over the details. Our Rotary Club for years now, and Tom's been our Rotarian Rookie of the Year, leading the blood drive. So the big red bus will be here from 11 o'clock until 2:30. So come early to Rotary and give the gift of life, or stay after. You're even excused during the meeting if you don't have the time schedule to get out and give blood. So please, please, this club has been fantastic. Sign up next Wednesday, 11 o'clock to 2:30. Give the gift of life. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. All right, I'd like to remind everybody that the first social of the Rotary year occurs on August 9th. It's actually going to be right here at Timuquana. We're moving it over to be a bit more of a recruiting and membership tool. So it'll be $15 a person, and please bring anybody that has any interest in Rotary. We'd like to put our best foot forward in one of the best venues here in Jacksonville. Rotary Leadership Institute, RLI, is in Orange Park on August 12th. Please be sure to register on DAC-DB, on the DAC-DB calendar if you're interested. If you are interested and you do not know how to register on the DAC-DB calendar, then let us know. Let's not let something like that get in the way of moving forward here at Rotary. The Vibrant Club seminar is August 26th in Orange Park. There's going to be important breakout sessions regarding membership, the Rotary Foundation, and public image. Public image being something that Marshall from our very own club has been instrumental in getting up off of the ground. That being said, I would like to call on Alton Yates to give our family a Rotary report.
Hold on one.
Good afternoon, members.
Got him.
Our birthdays for this week are as follows. Mark Halsey, July 24th.
Got to get him to unmute. Hey, Alton, unmute.
I'm trying. Okay, can you hear me now? Our member birthdays for this week are as follows. Mark Halsey, July 24th, John Barley, July 25th, William Andrews, July 26th, and Raul Sharma, July 31st. There's a story about two boys who detested each other all through school, but who eventually went their separate ways, one to become an admiral and the other a bishop. When after 30 years, the bishop spotted the admiral in Grand Central Station one day, he tapped the admiral on the arm and said, "Conductor, when's the next train to Boston?" The admiral looked at him and said, "Madam, in your condition, you shouldn't be riding on a train." Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you all. Also, just want to announce really quick that Raul Sharma's father has moved out of the intensive care unit into rehabilitation over at Brooks Rehab. Yeah, Brooks Rehabilitation Center. So congratulations, Raul. Certainly we hope for continued and speedy recovery with your father. I'd like to call on William Milne to introduce our guest and visiting Rotarian.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'd like to extend another special welcome to Past District Governor Jeff Michaelman. Thank you for joining us today and for your terrific presentation. And Michael Kumpler as the guest today. Will you please introduce?
I'm honored, pleased to introduce to you Norman Portillo from the University of Florida.
Thank you. President Dane Jensen has two guests.
I do indeed. God bless them. I have Pierce Gibney. Pierce is a longtime friend of mine. He played next to me on the O-line at Georgia Southern. He's an attorney and associate at Milan Health. Please welcome Pierce. And Danny LeBurn, if you would please stand. Danny is a colleague of mine. He works in the medical malpractice division at Saltfield Shad. Please welcome Danny.
Josh Harrison has two guests.
I have the defensive line at
Past President Ed Lombard has two guests.
It's just the one, Steve could make it. Austin Nicholas, who works for Northeast Florida Builders Association here in Northeast Florida.
Welcome. And I myself have three guests who are on Zoom. I'd like to welcome my wife Leanne and my sons Caleb and Tyler, who are participating on Zoom. They were very interested in today's speaker. So be safe driving. And we also have Mr. Kevin Cazell back from Riverside Rotary today. Thank you for being here. For today's just fun historical fact about Rotary, today we're going to talk about the advent of Rotary. And in some areas of the world, weekly Rotary Club meetings begin with all members standing and reciting the object of Rotary. This statement, which comes from the Constitution of Rotary, is frequently seen on a wall, flag in Rotary and Rotarians' offices or place of business. The object of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis in a worthy enterprise. The statement then lists 4 areas by which this ideal service is fostered: through the development and the acquaintance as the opportunity for service, the promotion of high ethical standards in business and professions, through service in one's personal, business, and community life, and the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace. The object of Rotary has not always been expressed in this manner. The original Constitution of 1906 had three objects: the promotion of business interests, the promotion of good fellowship, and the advancement of best interests of the community. And by 1910, the Rotary had five objects as increased emphasis was given to expanding Rotary. By 1915, there were six objects. By 1918, the objects were rewritten and again reduced back down to four. 4 years later, they had grown again to six and were not revised again until 1927. Finally, in 1935, at the 1935 Mexico City Convention, the six objects were restated and reduced to four. The last major change came in 1951, when the objects were streamlined and changed to a single object, which is manifested in four separate ways. The ideal of service is the key phrase in the object of Rotary, and this ideal is an attitude of being a thoughtful and helpful person in all of one's endeavors. And that is what the object of Rotary truly means. This concludes my report.
Thank you, William.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, William. A more timely message with all of our guests and visiting Rotarians here could not have been had. Thank you very much. So I'd like to call up Tim Johnson to introduce today's speaker. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, President Dan. Good afternoon. It's a great day in Jacksonville. Welcome to all our West Jax Rotarians. I'm here. It's my honor to introduce Dr. Laurie Slifka, who is chair of the Graduate School Teaching and Learning Center at Kaiser University. She's going to talk a bit about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. Dr. Laurie Slifka has been chair of the Graduate School Teaching and Learning Center at Kaiser University since January 2022. She previously served as professor of psychology at Kaiser beginning in 2017 after completing her PhD in behavioral neuroscience at the University of Missouri in St. Louis. Please join me in a warm West Jax Rotary welcome to Dr. Laurie Slifka.
Thank you so much for the welcome. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine.
Great. So I was just testing out my screen share. I was wondering if somebody in the room could enable me to be able to share my screen with you.
We will attempt to do that.
All right. I put together some stuff for everybody. And there's some cool stuff I want everybody to be able to see on the screen. Okay. Well, that was really quick. So you work very fast. All right.
I got the day off.
All right. Can you see that okay?
See the top half, not the bottom blue screen.
Not the bottom blue screen. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. See it okay?
Go ahead and get started and I'll let you know. Right now we can see your title line, the date, and top half of a blue screen.
Okay, I think that's what you're supposed to see. So we're in good shape. So thank you so much for having me. Unfortunately, I am not in sunny Florida. I am located in very smoky Chicago. But this is the second opportunity I've had to talk to a Jacksonville crowd. So this is pretty exciting. We're going to talk a little bit about ChatGPT and generative AI in general. ChatGPT is essentially a subcomponent of generative AI. I'm going to be speaking from the perspective of higher education. That's what I do. I know that this is a really broad group of individuals in diverse fields, but whatever field you're in, whoever you're employing, individuals are being fed, from the higher education system into different companies. And so hopefully this gives you an idea of what we're doing in higher education in this new era of ChatGPT. And, hopefully you learn a little something about ChatGPT along the way. So we're going to talk a little bit about ChatGPT and generative AI in general, some current implications for higher education. Just going to give you some things to think about from the perspective. If you're a professor in higher education, these are the things we're thinking about. And then hopefully we'll have some time for questions. So let's go ahead and get started. So I can't see the room. Normally I would ask if, this is something that people have heard of before. So I can kind of see the top of heads. So if you have used ChatGPT or generative AI before, can you just give me a little hand up? Okay. All right. It looks, all right. I'm seeing mixed. This is about generally what I get when I ask my faculty members. I think we're moving up from 50-50, but for a while it was basically at 50-50. If you haven't used ChatGPT or another generative AI model, I encourage you to check it out. It's pretty cool. Generative AI is what's known as a AI large language model. Essentially, the system is trained on a really large amount of data, and it's continuously being trained all the time with whatever is going into the system. This includes books, articles, websites, and it allows it to develop a vast store of knowledge on a wide range of topics. And essentially what it is, very briefly, is it's able to predict responses based on what it's been trained with. It doesn't actually have a brain like we do. I'm a neuroscientist, but it can predict the next word in each sentence, essentially based on the way that it has been trained and the information that it has. Its main purpose is to converse with humans in what's kind of a natural conversational way, providing responses to questions, engaging in discussions. And where we essentially left generative AI at the end of 2022 was it was fine. And then essentially we came back. I described this to my university. We came back from our winter break and it was good. And it's getting great. So now we're in the state with, what do we do with this technology in terms of higher education? What do we do with this technology in terms of business? Is it going to replace jobs? Is the question that people are asking. So, I think the starting place is really to understand what this technology is, get a sense for it, understand what its capabilities are. Because I think really in terms of replacing jobs, it's really going to be the ones that are not replaced are the ones that are familiar with the technology. So there are some useful features of ChatGPT. This is definitely not an inclusive list, but it can answer questions. I'm going to show you an example in a second. You can learn a new language. You can generate creative content, like say you want to write a poem or a song. So if I need a song to entertain my 3-year-old before sleep because she asks for silly songs about monkeys, I can ask ChatGPT to do it. Can help improve your writing because you can ask it to check for grammatical errors and whatnot. And I asked ChatGPT what its capabilities are, and it said it can engage in a conversation. So people that are nervous speaking to people can practice speaking to ChatGPT. And I'm like, well, then you're speaking to a robot, so I don't really know how much practice you're going to get from that. So when I first put together a lot of this material, it was when an older model of ChatGPT was out. They have a lot of blocks on the way that you can capture the information that's given, so you can't screen record. So what I'm going to show you in a second is an old screen recording that I was able to probably not legally get off the website. I found a way around it. So I want to show you its capabilities, but keep in mind it's even better now since I've last filmed it. This is just an example of a prompt that you could give. ChatGPT, also known as the new version, is called GPT-4. This is a question I ask in my basic lower level statistics class. Well, it used to be very factual question. So we're talking about measures of central tendency in math. And I ask, why might someone prefer mode over mean or median to describe data's central tendency? When is median preferred over mean? And the response at the bottom is what ChatGPT gave me. So it basically, and this, it walks you through the entire answer to the question. This is very fact-based. This would not be a good question for me to ask my students anymore because they can certainly use ChatGPT and get an answer like this. So what I did, and I think, for the people that have used this program before, this may not be that cool. For those of you that haven't seen it before, hopefully it's pretty cool. I asked it a bunch of different questions and I had it go through and provide responses. So I have a video of that I want to show right now. So let me switch over to that and we can go through. So you brought me here to talk about technology, and then I'm over here trying to figure out Zoom. So I want to remove my screen share here, and we're going to put it here. So hopefully you can see this. It is a little small, but I'll walk you through it. The way that I obtained this video, I can't rewind or fast forward. You all are like, you brought a thief. I did film this myself. It's just, I kind of did a workaround. So this is the old version of ChatGPT. We have a more advanced version now I'm going to talk about in a second. But what I asked the system, I'm the little red box, is what is ChatGPT? And it's telling me what it is. It's a conversational AI language model developed by OpenAI, trained on a large set of data, et cetera, et cetera. Then I ask it to be more specific, explain ChatGPT to a group of university faculty members in various disciplines. So it explains it tailored to a specific audience. So it's going to be a little bit more specific about the role essentially of ChatGPT in education. It talks about the applications in various disciplines like computer science, linguistics, psychology, etc. I ask it how it will change higher education. What are the pros? What are the cons? Again, it's using the data that it was trained on, and it's telling me it starts off ChatGPT and other conversational AIs have the potential to impact higher education in several ways. It lists pros, it lists cons, personalized learning, accessibility, efficiency, cons, job loss, because it can like automate certain tasks. I wouldn't worry too much about this now. I think that's everybody's concern, but let's just take it one step at a time. Bias, we're going to talk about that if we have time. It's trained on data. So if there's biased data going in, that's what's going to come out. So that's something that needs to be kept in mind. I have 2 little kids, so I always think in their perspective. So I said, explain ChatGPT like Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story would. So it said, to infinity and beyond, I am ChatGPT, a language model designed by OpenAI, designed to generate human-like text based on responses. I am not a toy. I play a vital role in the world of AI. So it took on that character. It had information about Buzz that it was able to generate that. This is a more, I know this is going really fast. I can send anybody this if they want. But this is a more specific question about asking students about the role of culture and psychological tests and measurements. It gives me a really good, really thorough response there. So it's basically talking about the history of it. It's giving me citations of note. If you are an instructor, the citations often are not accurate. It cannot go into the internet. So it will either be trained on certain citations or it will make up citations that seem like they would be correct. So that's something to keep in mind, but it's writing this whole response. It's giving me references, may or may not be real, but it's giving me something. So a student could certainly use this to come up with a response. It's a pretty good one. I looked over it. So far we've had it talk in character. We've had it explain more specifically to, a special group of people, explain what it is generally. Now I'm asking it to tell a joke. Tell a joke to lighten the mood. Sure, here's a classic one. Why did the tomato turn red? Because it saw the salad dressing. Tell us another joke, please. Of course. Here's another one. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Again, that was really fast, but this is how fast the system is. Actually, it's faster than what I showed you. because GPT-4 is quicker, but that's essentially what it's doing. You can give it a particular prompt, and then it will spit out a response. So you can see how this has major implications in all lines of work. So GPT-4 came out since I recorded that. I think it was summer is always a blur. I think it was May. It has a lot more parameters, so a lot more information that has been input into the system. It can do a lot of other things like generate audio, still images, interpret information and images. It still has that language component. These are some capabilities. In the blue, it's showing how the old version of GPT performed. Keep in mind, this is like a couple month change from one version to another. But blue is how it performed on certain exams. So like AP Calculus, the GRE, AP Microeconomics, AP Biology. The blue is how the old version of GPT was performing. The red is what the newer version that came out a couple months later was doing. And notably, it was getting significantly better in STEM. I read something interesting a couple days ago, but I don't want to give too much info because I didn't read too deep into it. But essentially, there is some concern that it was doing well, and now based on all the data that's going in, it doesn't have its own mind, so it can't filter it out. But apparently, it's getting worse in some fields because some inaccurate information may be going in. But this is something that changes all the time. But this I think just provides an example of the rapidly changing technology. This is a couple months difference on like where we were with performance of the system to where we went. And that's from also the first time I gave a ChatGPT talk to like the next one. I'm like, I have to change everything. This was a cool ad that OpenAI came out with when they introduced GPT-4, which is the new version. Essentially asked the system to discuss the image in each panel and then say something funny about it. So the system was essentially able to note what is in each panel. So panel 1, smartphone uses a VGA connector plugged into the charging port. Panel 2, package for the lightning cable adapter with a picture of the VGA connector in it. 3, a close-up of the connector. And then it was able to essentially take this knowledge and the knowledge it's been trained on to say the humor is the absurdity of plugging a large outdated VGA connector into a small modern smartphone charging port. So we're gaining a lot of momentum here, not only in terms of these large language models, but there are a lot of other artificial intelligence models that are out there that do just really cool, crazy things. My husband is really into this as well, and he works for a major airline, and my 3-year-old thinks that he works in the city and he rides airplanes with gorillas. She knows the zoo is in the city, and she knows he works for an airline. So she thinks he rides airplanes with gorillas, like a 3-year-old would. So he used an artificial intelligence model the other day, and he typed that in essentially. And he had the artificial intelligence model make him an image of a gorilla flying an airplane. So with a prompt, he was able to generate an actual image to show my daughter of a gorilla riding an airplane. So it's not, where we are with artificial intelligence is not limited to this language model, but there are a lot of different new technological advances. Another example is I had a student that kind of merged a couple different artificial intelligence mechanisms to have AI do their entire presentation that I asked them to do in their class or my class. So I had them do an online presentation where I wanted them to be on video, kind of like I am now, like on Zoom, and read or give the presentation with a PowerPoint and then upload it for me. So I get this, I look at this presentation and it looks funny. So the student was kind of like swaying a little bit weird, and there were like some weird blinks, and it's a 100% online class. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to make any assumptions here. Maybe there's something going on. And then I listened to him talk and it didn't sound right. It sounded too perfect and polished, not like I'm talking right now. And so I went on this crazy investigation. I spent my entire workday and I actually found the exact bot that this student used to make it seem like that is him. And then he recorded a snippet of his voice, of a minute of his voice. And then he entered his work and he had ChatGPT generate all of his speaking points. And then he had the bot read it in his, using his voice. And I was so impressed. It was a 7-minute presentation. Like it only would have taken him that amount of time, but the amount he put into it was so crazy. And he used bots. He used this language recorder and he used a large language model, ChatGPT. And I was just like blown away. So that's kind of where we are. The state of things. So we're, just constantly watching this. In terms of large language models, which is what the focus should be, but I come up with all of these examples that I see along the way, and then I end up going on tangents about it like gorilla and airplanes. But here are some examples of other large language models. If you Google large language models, you're gonna get a lot of different examples. There's companies that are competing with one another. So something to keep in mind that I brought up, imagine you have a machine that has access to all knowledge, but it believes everything it reads. So we have the cognitive ability to like filter things or to take prior knowledge that we have and to be able to say, okay, that doesn't make sense based on the context that I've already learned. So like if someone tells me my brain is in my foot, I would say, okay, I've already learned that the brain is not in my foot. It's in my skull. It's in my head. So I can filter out that silly comment that the brain is in my foot. But these systems don't have the ability to filter, and they don't have that history, that working knowledge, that cognitive ability. And so it's taking everything that it comes in and spitting it back out as truth. And that could include bias. And so be really careful with these without screening them. So if you are using, a large language model to write an email or to help with like a work assignment or something like that, you really need to go through and double check the accuracy of it. I know there are some interview systems out there too that use artificial intelligence that'll take data of people that are being hired and then continue to use that data to help design criteria to hire the next pool of candidates, the next pool. If it's hiring initially bias, it's going to continue to perpetuate the bias. So it's kind of like the same thing here. You have to be careful with the information. So this is not, an end all be all. We need human knowledge. We need human critical thought. We need human interaction. And it's really important to not take this at face value because it is not always correct in any regard. I know I only have 30 minutes and I want to make sure I have time if you have any questions. So I don't want to go too far deep into the rabbit hole of higher education, but us in higher education, when it initially came out, we were like, uh-oh. So this is the kind of stuff, these are the kind of headlines that we were seeing. ChatGPT can pass the MBA, can pass the LSAT. And so we're like, uh-oh, what do we do? And this is kind of, where I came in. Another issue that we're facing in higher education is cheating. So in my university, I'm actually helping with policy, which is so tough when something changes every single day. But how, my stance is we really need to work with the technology here in all sectors. So higher education and other sectors, because it's not going away. It's a tool. We need to use it as a tool. And if we just say, this is something that cannot be used, this is something we need to put out of our lives, like that is just not the reality. Like when calculators came out, when statistical softwares came out, when spelling and grammar checks came out, we learned to work with them as opposed to against them. I cannot ban my students from using this. They are going to find a way, and they are going to be smarter than me. And they're going to be more tempted to cheat, as opposed to, I'm going to work with you. We're going to work with this technology. We're going to figure out what's good about it, what's bad about it, and we're going to help it aid in your education, as opposed to, a ban. So, just general uses. Some of this may be applicable to all of you, to you, some of it may not. It can help with research. It can help with studying, creating outlines, creating talks. I did not make my talk with this, but it can, be helpful for that. It can help in terms of education in general, from how we're teaching, personalized learning tools, curriculum development, assessment. I use it in my job. It is helpful. We really need to think about challenges in both higher education and the workforce in terms of it being reliable. It's not consistently reliable. There may be ethical concerns. There's issues with integrity. It's not your work. Okay, it's somebody else's work. In data security, these programs are not necessarily secure in any regard. If you're putting in personalized data, they have that data. I think there are talks, I don't know how much past the talks they've gotten about having like private versions for businesses, but right now what you put in those systems, that can be stolen, that can be used. So you just have to be careful. I never would put any student information in a large language model on the internet. Okay, so I am actually just going to stop there. I want to make sure, I want to see if, this was like the fastest intro to ChatGPT and generative AI, but I just want to leave a few minutes in case anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie. This is
No
really good.
problem.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to walk around the room and kind of open the forum for some questions, if that would be okay. Okay? Tim
Yes,
Johnson.
I do have another meeting I have to jump to in a couple minutes. I feel so bad. I'm happy to come back next week if you need, or available by email, but I do have a few minutes.
Okay, Tim Johnson has a question?
Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate your presentation. From a neurological standpoint, I wonder whether this technology makes us less human. You gave these examples that we don't have to be as literate because the chat's writing our papers. I'm concerned that instead of praying, we'll become less spiritual because the chat's making our prayers. That example you gave of that young man was just incredible. But I do wonder what we're giving up through the utilization of these AI tools.
I think that's a really tough question, but I can tell you that this is something I've thought about. So I don't have an answer in terms of like the neuroscience perspective. It's more like a personal answer, if that is helpful in any regard. But I watch students on my online discussion board have conversations, but their responses are coming from like ChatGPT, and I know it because I teach this stuff. I know this technology very well, and it does seem very like it does lack human touch, essentially, if that makes sense. So I'm already seeing it, and I'm kind of seeing like the way that our written interaction is changing because so many people are using it that it almost does feel non-human like. So I think that's more of like my observation, and like I agree with you, and we need to use this responsibly. And I think what you're saying too, like still highlights the importance of personal interaction and like what you guys are doing right now. You're in a room, you're speaking to each other, you're joining events together, like keeping that up, because I don't think anything can replace human interaction. But this is like a scary place to be, I guess, with this technology.
Thank you for coming and talking with us even from the distance. You made a remark and I'm interested in if I heard it right. You said early in the presentation, it cannot go into the internet. Are you saying this doesn't delve out into the entire World Wide Web to get its conversation? Someone actually has keyed this stuff into one specific location?
Yeah. So it's not like Google. So it's not searching it's not Googling the answer for you. It's basically taken a copious amount of data that it's been trained on. And this is like more of the computer science aspect of it. I'm more of like the let's help instructors use it wisely side of it. But I know that it cannot search the internet for your answer. So it's using information that it's already been fed. Like it's been trained on, articles on the internet, that you can find on the internet, publications, books, and whatnot, but it does not have access to the internet.
Thank
Laurie,
you.
do you have time for one more question?
Yes, I do. This is more fun than other stuff. So
You might only be able to speak on behalf of yourself, maybe even only on Kaiser, but similar to Wikipedia, if a college student, when doing a term paper or a research paper, are they allowed to reference ChatGPT as a credible source in their research? Like, as long as they say, quote, whatever the quote is, referenced by ChatGPT, will professors accept ChatGPT as a reliable, credible source in their research?
okay, you got like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. No. So schools are rushing and have drafted policy. So the way that I generally see policy written is this is really a tough question, but there are tiers, and what we're working towards and what other universities have worked towards is giving professors academic freedom when it comes to how they're going to handle this. So some professors will say you cannot use it at all. If I find out you used it, which is a very hard question, because there aren't detectors that are 100% accurate, you fail the assignment. A middle ground is you can use it for certain assignments, you can use certain programs as long as you provide credit for it, because credit always needs to be given no matter what, because it's another type of intellectual property. That's also a debate because it's not somebody, but it's something else generating it. Another tier of it is you can use it however you want. So I think that's kind of where we are with there aren't hard and fast rules of how we do this. What I tell students is, so this is, my own personal perspective before we have like a hard and fast policy, is I know they're going to use it, but I would prefer they would not. Or like my stats class, like I want to see them learning. I am not going to take off if their grammar isn't great or they don't have perfect sentences. I want them to use it. If they are going to use it, they need to understand it and they need to tell me that they used it. They need to cite it. So it's really, really, really tough. And every school is different. Every professor is different with the way they handle it, but there is not like one clear, like, if you use it, you have to use it in this way, you have to cite it. But I do think, just from a professor standpoint, that transparency, I do think, at least where we are right now, is important. That there's credit given, but it's like, who are you giving credit to? Because see, I told you this was going to be 20 minutes. When I tell my students, when they're citing academic work, they're citing someone's property. So if I run a research study, I, go out, I collect the data, I analyze the data, I write it up. It's my study, it's my property. I did that. I worked hard. Don't claim it as your own. Cite it, give me credit. I'm not mean like that, but that's basically like, it's intellectual theft. So if you walked into a store, you took a candy bar, it's like that, but it's intellectual theft because you're claiming as your own if you're not giving credit. Who are you giving credit to when you're giving credit to a large language model? Robot. So I think transparency and how the students are getting their information is important, but the whole like citing thing, then it becomes weird because what's human, what's not human. So I don't know. I don't think I answered your question at all, but this is just where my head is every day with it.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you, Dr. Slifka. We certainly appreciate it. It's a topic that is fascinating. I know that this group has questions on it all afternoon, but thank you for your time. It was
Yeah, no problem. What I can do is I can, is there a way a teacher can tell ChatGPT to say write a term paper? It depends if you're familiar with ChatGPT. If you are, then generally, yes, I saw it in the chat. If you're not, then maybe no. But there's not like a detector that's 100% accurate. I put my email. If anybody has any questions or wants to chat, I'm happy to.
All right, guys, we are cognizant of what time it is. Just a couple of reminders before we go. Number one, next week, our speaker is going to be Mark Lamping. He's the president of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Our next social will be August 9th, right here at Timuquana. Be sure to RSVP either with Patty or on the JAC-DP calendar. Frank Shu is going to lead us in a four-way test.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join in the four-way test. Things I hear you. First,
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned.
All right, thank you very much. They say technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master. So let's go make the world a better place.